Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live at KVI.com and the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up this hour, homeless are attacking each other with machetes again, and a video posted by Trump starts a faux controversy. But before we get to any of that, time for your daily dose of adrenaline.
You want me to stick this into my heart? Are you f***ing nuts?
I don't know what it's going to take for people to realize they need to pull their kids out of public schools. Maybe this latest thing will do it. Before I tell you what it is, let's go through what parents have endured. Washington State's public schools used to be among the top in the U.S., and they have rapidly gone downhill. Let's not forget that Washington schools were closed longer than almost anybody else except for California in the U.S. during COVID. Mandates about what you had to do with your kids. And the education, aside from not being great, they're being indoctrinated. You have teachers with Antifa banners in their rooms, BLM, literally shilling for Hamas in their classrooms. So they're not learning anything. They're being indoctrinated, and as we tragically know, they are not safe either. Well, now, the latest proposal by Washington Democrats is aiming to make it even worse. What do they want to do? There is new legislation that wants to give kids excused absences for protesting. I couldn't make this up if I tried. So let's do a little math here. And let's just go back to the 90s for a second. Kevin, what time did you get out of school when you went to public school? Probably around 3 o'clock, 2:30, 3 o'clock, maybe 3:30?
You know, I don't remember exactly, but I do think it was like 2:30 or 3.
2:30, 3 o'clock.
Somewhere around there.
Okay, we're contemporaries. I'm a little bit younger than you, but 2:30, 3 o'clock. So people older than me had the same schedule I did, right? Automatically, kids in public school are getting less of a school day than I got, because I didn't get out of school until 4:45 on a normal day. If I had extracurricular activities, 6 o'clock easy. If I had the more extreme extracurricular activities like being in theater, no, I wasn't diving out of airplanes, but I mean things that took more time, things that took more prep. If I was on a sports team, forget about it. I didn't do that because that looked exhausting. Those guys never went home. They basically slept in the school. But I wasn't getting home till at least 8, 9 o'clock every single night. Right off the bat, we were getting more hours in school per year than the public school kids. Okay, I had a dual curriculum. Let's take out some of the Hebrew stuff, all right? Even with that, I have a longer school day. Now, take out the stuff that you learned in school, Kevin, history, math, science, all that, and replace it with the DEI garbage. Now you have now gotten rid of all that stuff and replaced it with activism. Replaced it with stuff that doesn't help you anywhere in life unless you want to get a gender studies degree or become an activist yourself. So now that's already less hours than the kids are spending in the schools. And it goes downhill from there. They killed music. They killed shop class. They got rid of some sports, all because of budget cuts, budget cuts, budget cuts, until you realize there's almost nothing left. Almost nothing left. I remember when I was growing up, I didn't know the politics of my teachers. There were maybe some I had inklings about, but I didn't care because I wasn't involved in any of this. Nowadays, you know because they have a banner hanging in their classroom. You know who it is. You know what they stand for. Well, here's the latest thing, my friends. Democrats in Washington State are pushing new legislation that would require school districts to give students excused absences for protesting. The bill was proposed the same day hundreds of Seattle public school students walked out of class, marched downtown, blocking traffic and vandalizing property to protest ICE. House Bill 2732 was introduced by Democratic Representatives Osman Salahuddin and Gregory Greg Dillon Nance and would mandate the district grant students up to one excused absence each academic term for what the legislation calls civic engagement activities. Civic engagement. Okay, well, there's an autonomous zone. Let's go to the autonomous zone. Let's go marching downtown. The legislation was proposed the same day hundreds of students from Seattle public schools and private schools, by the way, walked out of class on Thursday with demands for city leaders at a rally that stretched from their schools to City Hall onto 4th Avenue to protest ICE. Student protesters temporarily blocked traffic for their march along 4th and 5th Avenues, causing some delays, and some students vandalized property. Jonathan Cho has video of it. Hundreds more have been walking out all week in the greater Seattle area. According to Como News, socialist Seattle Mayor Katie Wilson joined the protest because Katie never passes up the opportunity to go protest with the masses. What did she do after her acceptance speech? She went right to the Ventifada, went right out there to protest with the baristas. One parent of Seattle Public Schools told me that their students, the students at their child's school walked out of class twice this week and teachers canceled class. Forget snow days now. They canceled class because of protests. By the way, what are they mad about? They're mad about ICE. They're saying keep our schools safe. You guys canceled school. You locked down the school, You locked down the school at 6 schools 2 weeks ago on false reports of ICE being in the area, and they were never actually in the area at all. You guys just made this up. This is all manufactured. Under House Bill 2732, civic engagement activities eligible for excused absences include legislative visits, organized advocacy days, convention participation, civic leadership events. What does that mean? What does that mean, civic leadership events? Civic leadership programming. What does that mean? Antifa meetings? And meetings with elected officials. Categories opponents say are vague enough to include demonstrations and politically organized events. 1,000%. That's what it is. You know, in school, if we still had classic school education, you might actually learn about civics in school, but they're not doing that. The bill also limits the authority of schools to say no. Requests for excused absences would need to be signed by a parent or a legal guardian, describe the civic activity, and be submitted at least 7 days in advance. But districts are not allowed to deny requests for reasons outside the bill's narrow requirements. A provision, critics say, strips administrators of discretion and forces schools to treat political activism as an approved absence. Now, on Thursday, one of our amazing listeners, who must be a member of the National Education Association, one of the largest teachers' unions in the U.S., because they sent me an email, which they sent out, urging educators and parents nationwide to take action against immigration enforcement. The email titled, "Hold ICE Accountable and Prioritize Student Community Safety," the union claims masked agents are spreading fear in schools and communities in states including Minnesota, California, Oregon, Maine, and beyond. Notice they can't say Seattle because there's no proof that actually happened in Washington. The NEA calls on supporters to contact Congress ahead of the February 13th deadline for negotiating the Department of Homeland Security budget, demanding ICE and DHS withdraw from communities and warrantless operations, protect schools and other sensitive locations from enforcement activity, cooperate with investigations into shootings involving federal agents. The message frames the issue not just as immigration enforcement, but as a broader fight over civil rights. So the NEA is behind all of this. By the way, any of our listeners who are in the union, if you're getting emails that show that the union is encouraging all of this, please email me. ARI@KVI.com. That's ARI@KVI.com. Now, mind you, with all these kids outside, that's a huge liability that now not just are you getting excused absences for going to participate in blocking traffic or vandalizing property, but also you are now not just encouraging these kids to go down there, but you are now responsible for any injuries they might incur along the way. We heard about the kid who got hit by a car. I don't know if you heard about this. Yesterday, a kid had to be saved from drowning in a lake. Gee, what were they doing near a lake while they were protesting? Sounds like some kids decided to go swimming. This wasn't here. This was somewhere else. Because the majority of these kids just go, excuse to get out of class, let's go. Now, put that issue to the side for a second. Now I want you to hear this, because these two combine with each other to make something way worse. Spokane, Washington officials are now moving to create immigration enforcement-free zones to combat ICE. The Spokane City Council is weighing a proposal that would create these immigration enforcement-free zones on city property. According to the Center Square, Councilmember Paul Dillon introduced the idea on Monday, the day after the Trump administration was reportedly renewing efforts to cut federal funding to so-called sanctuary jurisdictions, including cities, counties, and states that restrict cooperation between local enforcement and federal immigration authorities. Spokane already has a related ordinance on the books. Last August, the city passed a law allowing officials to designate certain areas as non-public, a status intended to prevent federal agents from entering without permission or a warrant. If adopted, these immigration enforcement zones would bar federal agents from using city property as a staging area for immigration purposes, prohibit agents from using covered locations for surveillance, prohibit them from using locations as staging areas, coordination points, operation bases, and more. Now, put these two things together for a second. Student activism, no law enforcement. Activist training, no law enforcement. This is just like what Katie Wilson was trying to do with the Seattle Police Department until officers basically told her, take a long walk off a short pier. Let's see. Not having cops or law enforcement in a certain area, combine that with activism. Haven't we tried this stupid experiment before? Oh, right. The deadly Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone. This is exactly like that all over again. Do you know that a second lawsuit has been filed against the city on the heels of them being found negligent to the tune of $31.5 million for the Chaz? Oh, the Chaz. It was so cool. It was so edgy. The Chaz. A second teenager who was shot in the 2020 attack that killed 16-year-old Antonio Mays Jr. during Seattle's Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone has filed a lawsuit against the city of Seattle. This follows the $30.5 million jury verdict finding the city negligent for allowing the occupation to occur. The lawsuit, filed by Robert West, who was 14 years old at the time, argues that Seattle's decisions regarding the occupation of 6 blocks of the city by BLM and Antifa activists in the summer of 2020 created the dangerous conditions that led to the shooting and delayed emergency response that followed. West survived the attack but suffered catastrophic injuries that have left him permanently disabled. According to court documents that we got a hold of yesterday, Antonio Mays Jr. and Robert West were shot in the early morning hours of June 29th while driving through the Chaz Zone in Seattle's Capitol Hill neighborhood. The two teenagers were inside a Jeep Cherokee when they were ambushed by armed individuals described as self-appointed CHOP security after protesters changed their name to the Capitol Hill Occupied Protest, who opened fire with an estimated 100 rounds. Mays Jr. was hit multiple times and ultimately died. West survived, but he was shot in the head and suffered life-altering injuries. In the chaos that followed, protesters and volunteer medics attempted to transport Mays Jr. out of the zone to reach medical help, but the path was obstructed by barricades. Seattle Fire Department medics reportedly did not enter the area, citing safety concerns. The results was a devastating delay in professional care, and medical experts argued that Mays Jr. might have survived if emergency aid had reached him sooner. By the way, nobody's been arrested for this, and you had random people with AR-15s opening fire on a couple kids in a car. So that's the worst case scenario. But now we have elected officials in Minneapolis, even here in Seattle, even here in Washington, saying they are doing everything they can to circumvent federal authorities. Attached to this lawsuit was something interesting to me. You know how the discussion was? Was Seattle actually coordinating with the warlord of the Autonomous Zone? Were they actually coordinating with the activists? The answer is yes. This is an email between people who are the brass at the Seattle Fire Department. I want to touch base regarding the CHOP area and ensure we are all on the same page. I know the Health One crew visited a medical tent there on Friday to liaise with the medical staff and see what needs they might have. At the time, they asked for major trauma supplies, chest seals, tourniquets, as well as a stretcher. Given the events of the weekend, we have no planned visits there without consultation with you. Also, as an FYI, Roger showed me a message from FS10 regarding an interview that Councilmember Herbold gave. They said she claimed that Health One had offered to be stationed in the CHOP to help respond to incidents there. I do not know the origin of this claim, as it was not made by any Health One crew. Thanks, John. Okay, let's break that down for a second. I see Chief Scoggins, Chief Barrington, John Ehrenfield, and Lisa Herbold on this email. That is coordination, admitting they're coordinating with the people inside the autonomous zone. Oh, we've reported 3 years ago, I think it was, that members of the Seattle Fire Department were instructed to give these medical supplies, literally listed in this email, to the people who are occupying 6 blocks of the city. What's happening in Minneapolis right now? Have you seen their autonomous zone? They're checking IDs of people coming and going. Wow, they created their own border patrol. They created their own ICE. Wasn't that well done? Well done, everybody. And then there's this email that came after the shooting from Jenny Durkin to Carmen Best, Harold Scoggins. Chiefs, I know this has been a very difficult time for each of you and appreciate your work. I know we are setting up a call for later this morning to be briefed on operations that the fire department and SPD and other city departments have been developing for Capitol Hill and normalizing the area so residents and businesses can reclaim their community. But as we discussed at the outset of the Capitol Hill issues, and as you told the public, there can be no part of the city where SFD and SPD do not respond. What happened this morning was foreseeable and avoidable. It cannot be repeated. So, as a standalone, your teams also need to develop true operational plans so we do not get a repeat of that again. They need to reflect ground truths and your best thinking on de-escalation and positive response. Since Chief Best is out of town, Casey is also working with Adrian Diaz, but this is going to have to be decided and directed by you, Chiefs. Thanks, Jenny. You're literally saying, we want the zone to occur, but we can't have any more shootings in it. The police have to go into the thing. We're watching this unfold in Minneapolis right now. The George Floyd Square, it's still a thing, and it's been 6 years since that happened. We're lucky the autonomous zone only lasted a month. We're lucky, and that's a horrible word to say, that only 6 people were shot and only 2 people were killed. Of course the city was coordinating. This is what happens when government officials are coordinating against law enforcement. You get what happened in the autonomous zone. But worse than that, when they're going on TV and saying, it's a summer of love. Oh, it's a street fair. It's a block party. Oh, it's mostly peaceful protests. You get idiot teenagers who show up to areas like this thinking it's going to be fun and they're going to be perfectly fine. And we know tragically they're not. What do you think is going to happen when they encourage kids and give them excused absences to go out there and attack ICE officers? They were already vandalizing property yesterday. What's to stop them from escalating this the way Renee Good did, the way Alex Preddy did? And now we've got dead kids. God forbid. What happens the next time some kid goes out there, gets hit by a car, falls in a lake, or whatever else the case is? How about this one? What about the kid who just wants to ditch class? And then does something stupid while off campus and gets horribly injured or worse? Now the school's liable for it. This is what they are teeing up. And all through it, they're not getting the education they should be getting. Instead, they're getting brainwashed into becoming little activists. If you haven't already yanked your kids out of the public schools, you need to. The mom in Auburn did it. The dad in White Center did it. I've gotten emails from other people who don't want to go public who've done the exact same thing. They don't want the flack that other people have gotten. I asked them if they want to come on the show. No. I said I could disguise your voice. No. But just know that let people know that I'm out there. Got a handful of emails like that. You need to get your kids out. And I know the private school is expensive. And I know that options are limited, but it's worth it. Trust me, as a guy who works multiple jobs to pay for it, I know how expensive it is. But would you rather the alternative? You know how many of you have told me your kids went to the protest, but it was just because it was an excuse to get out of school? They're not supervised. What happens when teenagers do dumb things? What happens when they're on their cell phone crossing the street and not looking both directions? As simple as that, it's over like that. That's what we don't need. These teachers are not teaching your kids. They don't have your kids' best interest in heart. Instead, they are pushing a political agenda using your children as their little activists, as their little foot soldiers. Don't let that continue. Please don't let that continue. Lots more to discuss as the show continues, my friends. When we come back, your calls, your texts, your emails, plus also the homeless are back to using machetes on each other in Seattle. We'll tell you what's going on when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Before we get into the machete attack in a homeless RV, I want to remind everybody about State of the Union. Join us Tuesday, February 24th, as we watch our Commander-in-Chief give the State of the Union at Daniel's Broiler. You get to see a live broadcast of the Ari Hoffman Show while enjoying delicious steak, and then you get my commentary on the speech as we all watch it together. Seating is limited. Make sure you sign up right now at kvi.com. That's kvi.com while we still have spots left. Also, one more reminder. Next week, it was so popular last week, we are bringing back a contest to give away tickets to see Lionel Richie and Earth, Wind, and Fire at Climate Pledge Arena on August 3rd. So next week, we'll be giving out the keywords, so that way you can win tickets. Make sure you are listening to all 3 hours of the Ari Hoffman Show, because you never know when those keywords are going to come up. We go to the Warrior Injury Law studio line, take a call from my good friend Alma. Alma, my darling, are you enjoying this beautiful sunny day?
Oh my God, I'm enjoying it, and thank you. I am so hurt. I'm hurt. How would our president, so-called president, he's not my president, call another president H, and they say, oh, he didn't do it. He shouldn't even come out the White House, Ori.
Alma, I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to tell you something right now. At 3:45 today, I'm going to be discussing this, and I'm actually partially on your side about this, and you're going to be shocked. You're going to be shocked. You're going to say, oh, my God, my good friend Ari actually agrees with me about some of this, okay?
Okay, Ari, as much as I like you, you can give me the ticket to come and listen to that man.
Wait. Alma, you get to hang out with me. You get a steak dinner. Let me tell you something, Alma. I watched every State of the Union since George W. Bush's second one, no matter who's the president, because I love the theater. It's all for show, no matter who the president is. Why don't you come to the event? We'll have a good time together, all right?
Okay, let me say one more thing, and you probably don't like it.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna name him dependent, like Pampers in Chief.
Alma, that was the last guy. You got the guys mixed up, Alma. That was the last guy. Yeah, Alma, are you a Seahawks fan?
Hey, go Hawks!
Yeah, go Hawks. There we go. See, we agree on something, Alma. Make sure you're listening at 3:45, okay? You promise me you're going to do that?
Thank you for taking my call.
Always a pleasure. Enjoy the weekend. Go Hawks. Switching gears back to what's happening locally here. I saw this story, and I said, just another day in Seattle. Seattle police are actively investigating a machete attack that left a man injured in the Central District yesterday afternoon. At noon, officers respond to reports of an assault on a person inside a recreational vehicle. Time out. I know exactly where this is. For anybody who's ever driven on Martin Luther King Way before up in the Central District, there's this stretch of parks and RVs. I like that they say recreational vehicle, right? As opposed to saying homeless drug den that's been up there for literally, you know how I know it's been up there for months, by the way, these places? I have to go that way to take my daughter to the basketball games, which she broadcasts. So I drive past these things all the damn time. I know exactly which encampment this is.
Is that not considered a recreational activity?
The drugs are the recreational
that's
activity.
What I mean.
I don't know. Maybe the guy who used the machete to cut off the other guy's hands. I guess it must have been fun for him.
That's an activity.
It's an activity, yes. Demented, but social. Yes.
Everyone's a little different. Whatever you do for your recreational activities.
This is how you get your kicks. Sure, just cut off from some fingers, like that episode of The Twilight Zone where the guy never mind. Okay, I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. The victim, suffering from a serious hand injury that included amputated fingers, managed to reach a nearby fire station for help. Why do you think they always have machetes in the homeless encampments? Is it from clearing brush or because they're easy to steal at a Home Depot? First responding officers determined the victim had been attacked with a machete and sprayed inside the RV. The Seattle Fire Department provided initial treatment before taking the victim to the hospital for further care. A police K-9 unit tried to track the suspect from the RV to a location at Martin Luther King Jr. Way South and East Yesler Street, but the scent trail went cold. Hang on. Kevin, that's a very, very odd sentence. Let's break it down, shall we? A police K-9 unit tried to track the suspect from the RV to a location, not to a house, not to a business, just a location. Maybe it's just a location because there's a tent there or an RV, just a location. What is this, Seattle Police Department? We know what this is. This is homeless on homeless violence. This is druggie on druggie violence. We know exactly what this is. Authorities believe the suspect may have fled the area in a vehicle before officers arrived. Police have applied for a search warrant to gather evidence from the RV. Wow. Search warrant to go into the homeless encampment. As they continue to investigate the circumstances surrounding the assault, they urge anyone with information to contact the SPD Violent Crimes Tip Line. Yeah, what's it going to be? Here, would you like an example of what they're going to call the tip line with? I've been telling you about those RVs for months. I knew something like this was going to happen. They fight every night, and there's gunshots, and there's drug deals going on, and you guys didn't do anything about it. So I stopped calling. That's clearly what it's going to be. Speaking of homeless activity, the newly opened light rail line between Angle Lake and Federal Way will shut down for repairs on Saturday. Why is it being shut down for repairs on Saturday? According to the Seattle Times, thieves targeting copper wire are at least partly to blame, according to Sound Transit. The work Sound Transit is conducting has been described as a planned closure to make sure there are not unplanned closures in the future. Hang on, I need my Sound Transit decoder ring. Do I have it around here somewhere? What are they saying? Yeah, we need to make things more secure because the homeless keep stealing our stuff. And if you don't want the light rail shut down more often, I'm sorry, it's going to be shut down this weekend while we put locks on that aren't going to accomplish anything because the homeless are going to keep stealing stuff. The light rail between Angle Lake and Federal Way has suffered repeated, quote, unanticipated voltage fluctuations. Oh, you mean the homeless stealing your wires and electrocuting themselves? Because that's what voltage, unanticipated voltage. I have to add that. I have to add that to the vernacular from Sound Transit. I keep forgetting they had a term for what it meant when the homeless stole something, and that's why the escalators don't work or something. They had a term, and I'm so mad I can't remember what it was, but they had a term for it. So now we have unanticipated voltage fluctuations. Doc Brown's out there with a giant hook and a DeLorean, trying to hack into the power to create the 1.21 gigawatts he needs to send Marty back in time. That's what we're doing here? Or maybe it's Liam Neeson. He's asking where his daughter is, right? And he's just hooking the guy up and electrocuting him. Maybe that's what's happening. Or maybe people are stealing the copper wires. They say it's due to copper wire theft. This type of theft has disrupted train service and damaged other railway equipment. Oh, you think? Quote, copper wires have been stolen on multiple occasions. This has occurred despite Sound Transit increasing the number of cameras, alarms, and overall security. So you guys just admitted that whatever you're doing this weekend likely won't work because they'll just steal this stuff in the future. King County prosecutors are urging lawmakers to crack down on copper wire theft. Okay, what do you think lawmakers are going to do? Maybe have the police do it. Maybe keep criminals behind bars. Maybe don't release prolific offenders. I know, I'm just talking crazy. Absolutely insane. Speaking of crazy, by the way, the Democrats still haven't figured out why they lost the 2024 election. And a new poll is out, which is going to reveal how bad it actually is for them. When we come back, we're going to dive into that poll, give you the full analysis, and tell you are things looking better or worse for the GOP heading into the midterms. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Well, the swamp took a big hit this week. The Washington Post laid off 30% of its staff, including 300 reporters. They closed the paper's sports and book sections. Let's be real about the Washington Post for a second. Does anybody read the Washington Post for the sports section? There's very few papers that are known for their sports section anymore. If people want sports, they get it on the internet. If people want sports, they watch the sports shows. They listen to the sports shows. They're not really getting it out of the paper. By the time the paper prints it, they've known the results for 12, 13, 14 hours, if not longer. You want some deeper analysis? You're checking the blogs. You're checking the websites. You're checking the Facebook groups. You're not looking at any of this. Book reviews? Yeah, I mean, you could just get those from Syndicate like the New York Times bestseller list. Do you really need that? Of course not. Now, they got rid of some podcasting people, too, which is an interesting choice because that's how you're supposed to be going into the future. They also are reducing the Metro section as well as their international coverage. I guess they're saying, hey, we could just get this from syndicated media as well. Now, what's fascinating to me about this is that it seems like this paper is going the way of the dodo. The left is going to say, see, this is what happens when you have a more conservative editorial section. And the right is going to say, see, this is what happens when you guys have been lefty for years. The Babylon Bee actually had the best headline. It said they have job openings available for all the Washington Post reporters because they can write better fake news than anybody else, which I thought was pretty good. Look, them protesting outside is not going to get their jobs back. That's what they're trying to do. A lot of these outlets are trying to figure out how to stay relevant. And I'll tell you how you stay relevant. The New York Post figured it out. The New York Post is the only newspaper I know that is expanding. The only still in print newspaper. They opened a branch in California called the California Post. Why is the New York Post relevant? Well, it's a lot of fun. It leans a little conservative. Their editorial section has a lot of stuff on the left, and it's entertaining. It's fun. I love their headlines. I love how they write stuff. John Mulaney has a great comedy routine, which he does about the New York Post. How anytime a child is involved, it's always tots. Their headlines are amazing. It's entertaining. It's entertaining. When I used to go into Manhattan, when I was living in New York, when I used to take the train in, every single morning I do the same thing. I get my plain bagel toasted, slathered with cream cheese, and I would get a hot chocolate because I'm a child. And I would take that, I would get my New York Post, and I would ride the train, and I was perfectly happy doing all that. I was happy as a clam heading into Manhattan with my New York Post because it's entertaining, it's fun, and it had a good sports section. So if you guys follow these simple rules, you'll stay in business. Take the Seattle Times, for example. I looked at their roster the other day. I cannot believe how many people work at that garbage newspaper, how little content they put out, and how biased they still are. It's almost like when the PI, which was the left one, and the Seattle Times was a little bit more right. It's like when the PI went out of business. The Seattle Times said, oh, well, now we have to cater to the left also, not realizing the left couldn't support the PI. Why would you cater that direction? And they sealed their own fate. You know who else is sealing their fate? The Democrats. They have a listening approach to try and find out why leftist voters stayed home in 2024. So they have these large-scale call operations dubbed local listeners, which is designed to reach approximately 1 million left-wing voters who cast ballots in the 2020 election cycle, but failed to do so 4 years later. This comes as the DNC continues to search for the party's identity following 4 disastrous years of the Biden administration. Politico obtained documents from the DNC's program that show volunteers will be trained to use a listening-first strategy when engaging with infrequent voters. The approach includes active listening skills while having difficult conversations about politics. Do you know what my theory on all this is? My theory is that people just had enough of the crazy. They just had enough. This was the return of the normies. No, boys can't be girls. No, our kids shouldn't be trained activists in the schools. No, we shouldn't let 10 million illegal aliens come across our borders. No, we shouldn't have a disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan. No, we shouldn't have Russia invading other countries. No, we shouldn't fund terrorist groups with U.S. taxpayer money. Very, very, very simple stuff. If the Democrats continue listening to their radical base, things are only going to get worse for them. Now, there's a new other survey out, a recent survey, according to the Post Millennial, has found that women are more likely to tolerate political violence than their male counterparts. and that overall the majority of Americans are able to justify the killing of sitting political figures. For everybody who says if women around the world it would be more peaceful, I think this kind of disproves that. The Network Contagion Research Institute at Rutgers University. Hang on, Rutgers University. Is this in my little black book of the right-wing media conspiracy? Let's take a look here. No, it most definitely is not. 1,055 American adults for the poll and asked them if it was justified to murder President Donald Trump and socialist New York City Mayor Zoran Mamdani. In regard to Trump, 67% of those left of center said it was justified to murder the sitting president. Well, 58% of centrist and 43% of right-center respondents said the same thing. That's horrifying. On the question of Mamdani, 54% of right-of-center respondents, 54% of centrist, and 40% of left-of-center respondents said murdering him was justified. Overall, 66% of respondents endorsed some level of justification for murdering either or both Zoran Mamdani and Donald Trump. That's horrifying, by the way. NCRI found that women were more likely than their male counterparts to support murdering the sitting political figures, finding a 15% gap between men and women in regard to Trump and a 21% gap between them in regard to Mamdani. This is terrifying, by the way, that many people are okay with offing the president or offing the mayor. That's how you get guys like Ryan Ruth, who was just sentenced after being convicted for attempting to assassinate President Trump in September 2024. This is the guy who was out on the golf course waiting for him in the brush. According to Bill Malugin over at Fox News, Judge Eileen Cannon sentenced Ruth to life in prison plus 84 months. Does this mean he's going to be released like the guy who tried to kill Reagan all those years ago? Does that mean he's going to be released? That kind of thing? Great. Oh, that would just be fantastic, wouldn't it? So, in September, Ruth was found guilty on charges of attempted assassination of a major presidential candidate, possession of a firearm by a convicted felon, possession of a firearm with an obliterated serial number, possession of a firearm in furtherance of a crime of violence, and assaulting a federal officer. Well, I guess we're just lucky that the judge isn't one of those people who feels that political violence is justified. Otherwise, you would have gotten a different sentence. Truly horrifying that our society is becoming so predisposed to violence. Really, just horrifying. We go to the Warrior Injury Law studio line. Take a call from Jeff. Jeff, what's going on?
Well, with Trump posting that meme of him being king of the jungle and of all the animals in the jungle that he could have put Obama's faces on, it had to be monkeys. Come on now. I mean, the guy is a stone cold racist, always has been. And there's nothing funny about that, nothing humorous or cute. It's sick and disgusting. And
did you watch the video, Jeff?
No, I'm not going to watch it or waste my time.
Did you watch the video? Did you watch the video? Because the one that Trump posted, Trump's not king of the jungle. What are you talking about? It sounds like you got these talking points from somewhere else. And maybe if you listen to the next segment of the show, you'll actually know what the video had in it.
But anyway, the picture.
Wait, Jeff, did I discuss, Jeff, do you just want to talk or you want to have a discussion? Did I discuss this at any point so far during the show, or are you just calling to be mad?
I just got home. I just got home from work.
You just got home. So you haven't even heard me discuss this because I haven't discussed this yet. You just want to be mad at somebody about this video, which you haven't watched. I'd like to
talk about it.
Okay, let's talk about it. What did the video show?
I haven't watched the video. I just heard about it.
Okay, thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Jeff. Do appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show.
Boring conversation anyway.
Dude, watch the video, listen to my show, and then be like the other people who don't like me, call me up, and we can discuss it. I'm more than happy to. In fact, when we come back, my friends, we're going to watch the video. We're going to talk about the video and see why everybody's all spun up about the video. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Okay, the video that everybody's talking about. I actually think the best news outlet that covered the video was not the Bee. The Babylon Bee's fake real news website, where they actually tell you the real news, but it's so ridiculous you may not believe it. And what happened was I woke up this morning and I see this thing trending, and I'm going, what the hell is what did he post now? What happened, right? And I see the Obamas in the monkey avatars. And I'm like, oh, this is a bad, bad look. Let me go look at the original post and see what it shows. So the original post has nothing to do with this video whatsoever. It's all about voting tabulators in Michigan and how a 4G-enabled chip made in Taiwan was reportedly found in a tabulator. At the very end, a clip appeared that was spliced into the original report. It's a meme of the Obamas as monkeys that was created by an ex-user named Sirius X. Okay. This is why you don't let your elderly relatives tweet at 10 o'clock at night when they should be in bed. Clearly what happened here, if it was President Trump or if it was some intern that's working for him or whatever the case may be, they thought the video about voter fraud was interesting, didn't realize that this clip was hooked on to the end, and then sent the thing out into the world. Stupid. Unforced error, as we say, because now you just gave the left ammo, like our last caller, to call and say everybody on the right is racist. Here's something else about this video. I remember the animal video when it first came out. And I remember when Sirius X made this thing, it was trending, and I'm like, that's not a good look, guys. What it was basically a whole bunch of people as different forest animals, including President Trump, as king of the jungle. They were all out there. He was a lion. They had Mitch McConnell as like a turtle. They had everything out there. It was terrible. It wasn't funny. It was a bad meme. And I can see how people would think it was racist. They had Hillary Clinton as a warthog. This thing was bad. It wasn't good. It wasn't funny. This is an unforced error. I always said unforced errors pull you off message, pull you off topic, and posting this thing is just bad. I mean, I'm not going to say the original video isn't racist looking. It's still pretty racist looking. Posting even a smidgen of it, and that particular smidgen of it, really, really bad look. I'm not even going to defend the thing. But the left getting all up in arms about this after clearly knowing what it is shows you how desperate they are for something to grab onto, something to say it. And we know that half the time it's not even Trump writing those tweets. We know half the time he dictated them. Sometimes he authorized them if they're a little bit more professional sounding and an intern wrote them. But everybody getting worked up over these, I get why people are mad. I'm not defending the video at all. It wasn't Trump who made it. Was it him who posted it? Quite possibly. Did he watch the whole thing through to the end? No. How many people, like our last caller, just heard about it on the radio or MS Now, M Snow, and called me all mad about it like I'm going to defend the thing? There's nothing to defend. It's a bad look. It's a dumb move. Speaking of dumb, by the way, we have Bob Ferguson and Governor Healy make a bet about the Super Bowl. Did bets start working differently? I'm confused about all this. Give a listen to this cringy video.
Hey, Bob, how's it going? You ready for the game?
Hey, Maura. Hey, I was at the Super Bowl in 2015 when your Patriots beat the Seahawks, so this time we are definitely getting our revenge.
Well, you sound pretty confident. How about a friendly bet?
That definitely works for me. What have you got in mind?
Man, I talked to the people in Massachusetts, okay? So in the unlikely event you win, here's what we're going to send you. Legal Seafood's famous New England clam chowder and lobster rolls. Maybe some East Coast oysters, the best and the only kind. And I hear you don't have very good coffee out there, so we're going to throw in some Dunkin'.
That sounds good. And if you win, which I, for a moment, do not think is going to happen, we'll send you some of the best shellfish and coffee in the world.
All right, let's do it.
May the best team win, and go Hawks.
Totally not scripted at all. And what was that thing at the end there? You caught it too, right? The thing with, for this moment, I think the Seahawks are going to win? Is that what he said? That's what it sounded like to me.
Yeah, that is weird.
Hang on, let's just replay that to see if we both heard what we thought we heard in that last little bit.
Kind. And I hear you don't have very good coffee out there, so we're going to throw in some Dunkin'.
That sounds good. And if you win, which I, for a moment, do not think is going to happen, we'll send you some of the best shellfish and coffee in the world.
All right, let's do it.
May the best team win, and go Hawks.
Oh, I see. He put the emphasis on the wrong syllable, which was, I don't believe for a single moment that would ever happen. It's so terrible.
And it's not even, it's because he's reading, and also he's clearly not talking to her.
Right. Clearly.
Like
Somebody said, put this phone in your hand. We're not even going to film this in real time or anything.
Here's the end of her conversation. Now respond to it, vice versa. Or She's actually pretty good.
She's not bad.
Yeah, she's actually pretty good.
She can pull this off. She's got a little bit more bounce in her step, a little pep, a little bit more of that. She
starts the clip off, and I thought, oh, they're actually having a conversation. And then when he first responds to her, I go, oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah, no,
okay. Yeah, these cringy videos are just terrible. What happened the old day where they just issued a press statement? I remember there was a bet in New York during the Subway Series between Giuliani and somebody else over Mets and Yankees. And it's just, hey, they've bet each other, and here's what's going to happen afterwards. Now you got to make these cringy, terrible videos. You don't have one media person around there who goes, guys, this is lame. Don't do it. This is why I'm thrilled I got my wife and daughter, by the way. Oh, and my boys for that matter, too. When I make a video and I go, that's funny, they go, no, it's not. Don't ever put that up. Don't ever, Ari, don't. As much as I tweet and post now, it could be so much worse if not for them. I promise you that.
Well, as this whole social media experiment has gone on and the internet and all that stuff, I think it's getting worse.
Yes.
And the amount of slop that's out there, and people it's acceptable to a lot of people now at this point. They don't even care.
They don't
don't care.
Oh, big deal. You have this jungle animal politician video. It's just stupid. Wait, we can make political hay with it. That's basically what it is. That's why when a meme lands hard, I think it lands harder because they're funnier. Because there's so much garbage out there.
Yeah, you
got to
sift through so much slop for anything to rise to the top anymore.
You only trend for one of two reasons: really, really bad, or really, really good, and there's nothing else in between at all. Pretty terrible, by the way. Anywho, when we come back, my friends, lots more to discuss, including not just the walkouts are a problem and what's going on here in Washington. In Olympia, we have the income tax under consideration. But the good news is a record number of you signed up to push back on it. We'll tell you how many. We'll tell you the latest. We'll give you all the details. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI.